Welcome to Charred Oak, the business, bourbon, and becoming podcast where bold ideas meet smooth pours. Hosted by entrepreneurs Matt Gerard and Shane Theiss. This is your needed pour of inspiration, insight, and a splash of something strong. Each episode, Matt and Shane dive deep into the world of business, growth, and entrepreneurship, sharing real stories, practical strategies, and the mindset shifts that fuel success. Whether you're building your empire or just getting started, this is your space to learn, grow, and become. And of course, no episode is complete without the Bourbon of the Week, a curated tasting and review that pairs perfectly with ambition. So, pour a glass, pull up a seat, and let's build something great, one sip at a time.
And we're back. Welcome back to our second episode of our podcast. Those of you who don't know, I'm Matt Gerard.
I'm Shane Theiss.
And our guest now, I'll let him self-introduce.
Hi, I'm Danny Williams, owner of Lifeworks Photography Studio and Williams Group Photography here in Rochelle, Illinois.
Awesome. I'm super stoked about this one. We talked about our businesses, and how long have you been open now, Shane?
8 years.
You've been 8 years. I've had a storefront for 3 now. It's going to be nice to have one of the Rochelle area veteran businesses who've been around a hot minute to kind of be able to bounce some questions to get that perspective from what we're going to see. Plus, you're not central to downtown per se, and you used to be.
We used to be, yeah.
So we're going to touch on that too. So we're going to be able to kind of pull some things from that one too. But Shane, you brought the bottle. I'm going to let you introduce what we're drinking this evening.
So tonight we're drinking a Whiskey Acres Blue Popcorn Bourbon.
I have not tried this yet, so I'm not sure if I'm scared or excited.
It's very good. Made with blue popcorn that's grown in a secret location in the middle of their cornfield.
That sounds like a reefer farm. I don't think it is. If anybody in Whiskey Acres, strangely enough, actually watches this video, this is not an accusation.
They actually promote it that way, like it's a hunt. Yeah, it's pretty funny. If you do their tour, they do a good job of explaining how the blue popcorn came to be and where it's found, where it came from, how it started. They actually started with the guy that created Maker's Mark.
Interesting.
So I believe it was Maker's Mark. Yeah, not Dave Portney, but I think it was Portney was his last name. But yeah, he was one of the original founders of Whiskey Acres. So that's kind of where a lot of their stuff came from. But yeah, it's good.
Really nice.
What do you think?
Neat.
It's got a real rye flavor.
A little bit, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's rye, but it's not as sweet as a regular rye.
Yeah.
Yep. A big caramel note to it.
Mm-hmm.
It smells like paint thinner to me, though. I don't know if that's, maybe I should have washed my glass a little better, but I don't know. The nose on it, I didn't really get a whole lot out of that, but the flavor is fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, very smooth, easy sip. I'm enjoying that. Hopefully the flies don't. Cause
Definitely a good sipper.
that is a great sipper.
Mhm.
That is a positive selection here. So,
Yep.
yeah, with that being said, Danny, all right, let's start with the origin story here. How did the photography business, did it start as Lifeworks? Was it the Williams Group? How did that start? Where did that start? And kind of like start at the very beginning there for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So Stephanie, my wife, and I, we started Lifeworks Photography back in 2008. Prior to that, I had a background in photography. I should actually start way back. My grandfather was actually a portrait photographer growing up, so photography's been in our family for a couple of generations, actually. My great-grandfather started as a portrait photographer, and then my grandfather eventually became a portrait photographer. None of his kids really wanted to be part of the business. They all kind of did their own things. My dad worked in factories, and my uncle did construction, and the daughters didn't really want much, even though they did work with him a little here or there. And then, he continued to have his business through the 90s and early 2000s. But then in 2008, when I was working for newspapers, my background was mostly in photojournalism. So I went to school for journalism with an emphasis in photography at Eastern Illinois University, and with all intentions of wanted to be a photojournalist the whole time. Thought I was going to travel the world and have all these amazing experiences, things, and the reality of that is it's it's like people that think that they're going to be a movie star, type of thing. There's very few that actually get to do that with their life, and that's also not conducive to having a family and things like that. So so I was working for small weekly they were weekly publications that were owned by a bigger newspaper down in central Illinois. I saw the handwriting on the wall for photojournalism and just newspapers in general at that time. I mean, they were all starting to fail at that time. Not to the degree that they are now, but it was the internet was really revolutionizing a lot of that industry, and I guess like where I saw it was every single month it seemed like they were telling me to do more work with less resources. And that's never a good sign. When a business is telling you now just work harder. Okay, are you going to pay me more? I'm like, oh no, okay, and I finally hit a point where it was like, I don't mind working hard. I'm a very hard worker, but if I'm going to do that, I'm going to do it for myself.
Sure. Sure.
And so I literally called my grandfather one day I got him on the phone and was just like, hey, tell me how to start a photography business. Really didn't have much of a background in portrait photography. Journalism photography and portrait photography are two pretty different things. But what I did realize is that things like weddings are really nothing more than a big news assignment. It's just a long news assignment. It's an 8 or 9 hour photo assignment. So I kind of tried my hand at a couple of weddings, and they were really starting to stick. And I was like, yeah, I felt like I was really good at this, and I really enjoyed what I did. The best part was I was working one Saturday and making twice what I was in an entire week at my newspaper job. And so I was just like, I just really got interested in it. And so called my grandfather, said, hey, this is what I want to do. And he started kind of giving me some guidance on it. And originally we were going to start our business down in central Illinois because that's where we were living. But the truth was we didn't really have any family, and we didn't really have much support system down there. We just had moved down there because that's where my job was. Mm-hmm. And so we both decided to put our notice in at our jobs, and so we put a 30-day notice in at both of them, and we had planned to buy a house, move back here, do the whole thing, start a business, run the business out of our house. The craziest part of that was we decided to do all of that in July of 2008. And I don't know if you guys remember July of 2008, but that was the Lehman Brothers market collapse of everything. So we had a house all lined up. Everything was good to go. Had moving trucks, everything. The bank called us 1 week prior to closing and said, we're really sorry, there's nothing we can do for you. The market has completely changed, and we can't close on your house now unless you can, somehow come up with, basically they were like, if you can come up with $30,000, we can, which is impossible.
Let me pull that out of my butt real quick.
Right. So kind of back to square one, or back to the roots, and we decided to actually move in with my wife's parents. They were gracious enough to let us live there with them for a little bit till we could find an apartment, and kind of started from the ground up there. And we actually did run our business out of our a condo on the south side of Rochelle here for about 2 years till we moved to a new location, and then eventually ended up finding an actual location to rent in downtown Rochelle. Wasn't the most ideal location at that time, eventually transitioned into a much nicer location and everything from there. So that's really kind of the origin of where it came from. You know, I mean, it really came out of the need and want to work for myself and work, you know, make more money and, you know, and the other part too was, you know, working for those weekly newspapers. I had to do a lot of writing and a lot of editing. They had promoted me to managing editor, and I was doing a lot of stuff that I didn't enjoy. Just wasn't fun. I don't like writing. You know, that's why I take photos. I don't.
Different kind of art.
Yeah, I don't enjoy writing. It's not something that I'm passionate about, and I didn't like editing. I didn't have the background to be an editor, and I think I'm my worst, as far as photo editor, I think I'm my worst photo editor, you know, like, and when I go through and edit, or when I select, like, wedding photos, like I just did today, like, I'll, like, keep way too many photos in there, you know, and then luckily I now have an assistant who, like, comes along and goes, nope, 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 nope. And she cuts my weddings down a lot, you know, because otherwise we'll just spend way too much time editing and stuff. But, so I was doing all those things that I didn't enjoy. And so I just wanted to concentrate on the photography, you know, and, this was a way that I could do it. So you know, as far as like my education in portrait photography, I literally just got my hands on every book that I could, my, you know, posing, lighting, you know, composition, everything. Just read all the time, you know, and then would go out and try these things out, you know, and because that's always the big thing, you know. Everybody thinks, oh, you know, I'll read about this or I'll watch a YouTube video, and it's like you got to get out and actually, you know, you got to do the work, and so started doing that, and you know, one thing turns after another, and all of a sudden stuff's looking good. You know, it's like it's not good in the beginning, but then all of a sudden, oh, okay, that's much better. You know, and as long as you're learning and doing it, you know, that's how you progress. So so that's really kind of where the origins came from. We moved up here in 2008 from Central Illinois, and just kind of grew it from there. And it was truly a grassroots marketing at that time. You know, we had no money to spend on newspaper ads or radio ads or anything like that, and the internet wasn't what it was now. I mean, that was 17 years ago.
Right.
You know, Facebook was
infancy.
Yeah, it was very primal at the time. You know, you could.
And it was all college oriented. It wasn't like, hey, we can use this as a marketing tool.
Yeah.
They didn't know what they were at the time.
Exactly.
No.
Yeah. I mean, it was like, you know, tell people what you're doing right now and poke somebody.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm going to the bathroom
Yeah.
right now, live.
Right.
Like the best posts ever.
and we all wondered why we were on it.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like, why did I even post that? I don't get it. You know, and then you know, a couple of years later, it really started to shape and evolve into what it is now. But so we really were grassroots. You know, I came into town. I didn't know a lot of people here. I knew my wife's family because they're all from here. But I joined the Chamber of Commerce at the time, got on the board actually. I mean, I think I'd only been in town for 3 or 4 months, was elected to the board, and started meeting people through that and just talking to people, and we kind of grew our business that way. It was really slow going in the beginning. I did a lot of extra side jobs to keep paying the bills as we were going, mostly student teaching. It's still very, very weird when I see one of my kids that I was teaching, and they're like 25 now, and they call me Mr. Williams, and I'm like, don't.
Does that ever get easier? I'm going to ask both of you that question.
No.
When somebody calls you Mr.
No.
The last time I had some kid come to me and say Mr. Gerard, I almost pooped myself.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm like 15. Oh, no, I'm 40.
Yeah.
It's weird for me seeing the kids that I coached in soccer when we first moved here that, you know, were 6, 8, 10 years old, and now they're 25 and have their own kids, and their own kids are playing soccer, and you know, it's just I'm not that old yet, you know, or the kids the kids that I skied with, or the, you know, the people that I skied with back in the 90s, I'm skiing with their kids now. And it's like, okay, they got smart and got out, and I'm still doing this.
See, I'm lucky. When I was doing high school coaching and grade school coaching, that was back in the suburbs. I don't run across those kids. So none of them call me Mr.
Yeah.
Gerard, thank God.
The worst part right now is I actually have someone that I did their senior photos for when they, like, probably that first or second year, and they now have a kid who's about 3 or 4 years away from graduating.
It's
Oh,
crazy.
God.
Now, obviously, he had a son very, very young, but it's still just unbelievable to think, like...
It's harder for you than him.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'll probably be doing his senior photos, and it's going to be so weird. But
So, trivia question about Danny.
Oh, boy.
When was the first time we met? See if you remember.
my guess, the first time that you and I met was when I did the story for you guys doing the Red Bull. You guys were doing the Red Bull.
Oh, the Flutog stuff.
Flutog.
I think it was before that.
Before that even, okay.
Because you did the radio-controlled car story for my kid
Yes, that...
at the track in
The
Rockford.
Flutog was after the radio control one?
Yeah, the radio-controlled was
Okay.
probably 2011,
Okay.
and then Flutog was 2013.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Now that you do mention that, I do remember the RC story as well.
Yep.
I forgot about that one, but I remember the Flutog one. Yeah, because I remember with the Flutog one, like we came and we met in your living
In the
room.
garage, yeah.
Or garage,
Yeah.
living room.
Yep.
Yep. So, yeah, that was...
It was a long drive, the whole 6 houses down to get to my place.
Were we? I don't think we were living there yet, because we
No?
because we didn't move there. I probably did for the Flutog one. I take
Okay.
that back. Flutog, I probably was.
Yes.
RC one, I definitely wasn't, because we didn't buy that house. Let's see here. I'm trying to do the math on that, because we just did the math on this because I talked to the person that just bought that house the other day. We moved out of there 6 years ago. We bought it 7 or 8 years prior to that.
Okay.
So like 13, 14 years
Yeah.
ago would have been, you know what? I
Maybe.
might have been living there. It would have been pretty fresh
Yeah.
if I was living there for the RC one. But I'd be willing to bet that we were still living on 12th Street at that time.
Okay.
We were renting a house from the Bruns family on 12th Street for a little while, and then we bought the Brookstone house. So,
My question for you. So, and anybody that wants to get into the arts, especially the service side, and actually not suck at it, this is huge. Like you said, you started off with the portraits, and you weren't great at it when you started.
yeah.
So, when you were getting good at it, was that one of those things where like when you first started, was that one where you immediately started, you know what, we're going to take a customer and do this and just hope for the best? Or was that, we're going to practice, and then how long was it before you decided to pull the trigger and really start feeling comfortable where you were competent?
So I'd say it's a little bit of both. You know, when I was younger, I was a lot more cautious, meaning I was scared to take someone on because I was worried about failure. You know, I think I don't know if I'd say I've gotten over that totally, but I definitely have a different theory on it than when I was 20-something years old than compared to now. You know, when I was younger, yes, I went out. I was practice. Whoever would let me photograph them, like, hey, you know, let me borrow your kid. Let me do this. Let me do this. You know, I was calling in every favor I possibly could. You know, that was probably the best way of doing it, because then there wasn't a lot of pressure. Nobody was paying me money. I was just doing something fun for a friend or an acquaintance, and here's the photos, and you know, and people were nice and gracious, and they'd throw you $50 here or there or whatever, you know, they could afford, and so that was really nice to be able to do that. If I had to do it all over again, I would have started advertising immediately and just not worried about it. The reason being, I've just learned over the years, you number one, you never turn down money. You never turn down money, and you never turn down a job.
Yep.
And someone will not hire you if they don't want to.
Yeah.
You know, like that's the honest to God truth. I mean, they see your work, they see your portfolio, and if they don't want to hire you, they just won't. You know, and so you should just get out there and just do it. You know, and just go full force. You know, I still to this day, I probably have a handful of accounts that I can think of that I regret turning down at the time because I was worried of like, well, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can, I'm worried about disappointing them or whatever. You're almost better off just doing it and disappointing them and learning from it than you are turning it down or even telling them that you're worried about that, because then that loses confidence for them immediately, and then they just want to look for somebody else.
Yeah.
And I still, like I said, to this day, I can think of at least 3 for sure that I can go, ugh, I wish I would have just taken that job, shut my mouth, and done whatever I could to figure it out, you know, type of thing. And then, but I guess at the same time, I did learn from that. You know, when I didn't get those jobs, I learned pretty quickly. You go, oh yeah, no, you just don't say anything and you just go ahead and do it. You know, I mean, at least for me personally, the best way I learn is from messing up. You know, I mean, and I think most people do.
Yeah.
You know, it's for the client, it's never the thing that they want to hear, but you as a business owner, as an artist, as just as a person, you learn more by messing up and then figuring out what you did wrong to not repeat that. And that's, like I said, to this day, that's still how I operate. You know, just go in, figure out, and have I taken on jobs that were too big for me to chew on? Like, absolutely, you know. And I also learned, like, okay, well, maybe I don't like this type of job. You know, maybe this isn't for me. But at least I tried, did my best, and kept going from there.
And kind of to touch on what you were talking about, you can get a lot right by accident. Failures are always very intentional.
Yes.
Let's face it, because you can pinpoint when you start digging into the things that you did wrong. It doesn't take a lot to start tracing or just asking questions or other things to go, oh, that's messed up. Why is that messed up? If you get something right, it's really tough to say why you did something right without the experience. When you have experience, yeah, I did it right because I did X, I did Y, I did Z. Here are my procedures, here are my steps, here's my lighting, here's my position, here's your position, etc. If you get something right the first time, you're sitting there going, I don't know why that's right. I'm thrilled.
When's the other shoe gonna drop?
Exactly, but that it requires that messing that stuff up. Hey, you got a little friend there?
I do. Little protein.
Little alcoholized protein.
Yeah.
I leave those comments in the videos, by the way, because people need to see that.
Absolutely.
For sure.
So, how involved was Stephanie then, like early on?
Yeah, so early on, she was very, very involved, and she still is involved, just not to the degree that she was when we first started. You know, when we first started, neither of us knew what we were doing. We were just, neither of us had a background in business. We didn't know anything about marketing. We didn't know, I mean, here's what I'll say. Stephanie is a gifted, natural salesperson. I am not. I'm the, like, give the farm away, you know, type of person. Stephanie is the, like, no, they need to pay for that type of, you know, put your foot down type of thing. So it worked out really well in the beginning. You know, she handled a lot of the business admin type of things, where that left me to be able to do the creative editing, you know, things like that throughout the day. You know, the problem has always been with that is that Stephanie's always had a full-time job. You know, when we first started off, you know, I felt like such a bum because she was the breadwinner. You know, she's just like she was the reason we were able to do this, because she had a full-time job and was able to pay our bills and do everything while also supporting me with the business. And thankfully, at that time, we didn't have kids yet. So we were both very young and had a lot of energy. And so she would go and work a full day there and then come back and meet with clients late at night, you know, when we were scheduled. And it's not like that was like an everyday thing, but she would sit down with clients, do all the sales and do everything. And thank God, because it's just not something that I am gifted at, and it's not something that I have a desire to want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a natural salesperson. I don't like it. I don't. The best way to describe it is it gives me the ick to try to sell to people.
You feel dirty inside. Being
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
hey, but do you want to? And the upsell.
Yes.
All the,
Mm-hmm.
So I actually, prior to moving down to Central Illinois, I actually worked in a camera store for about a year up in Rockford. It's no longer there, but it was Lundgren Camera. And I think I was probably the worst salesperson there at the store because, my boss would always be like, well, you got to sell them a case and you got to sell them a memory card and you got to sell. I'm like, I just want them to buy the camera. Like, I don't think they need all this other crap, you know, and the worst part is that, like, my paycheck was tied to it, you know. It was like it was
Yeah.
my commission was primarily based off of selling them those accessories. And I was always terrible at that, you know, and he'd always give me the, I'm trying to remember his quote that he always used to say, you know, when do you stop selling? When they say no, you know, and I just wasn't like that. I'd get him the case, I'd get him the memory card, and I'd get him the camera and be like, oh yeah, you're good to go. You know, and then he'd always be like, how come you didn't try to sell him a bag? How come you didn't try to sell him a tripod? How come you didn't try to... I was just like, I don't know. I just... Because I felt dirty enough selling them this stuff, you know? And so, thankfully, she fulfilled that role in the business of being able to do that. And she did great at it. She continued doing that part of our business through, I'd probably say 2018 at least. You know, we really did a lot of in-house, in-person sales up until about 2018, 2019. I'm probably messing that up. We probably did it even longer than that, like more like into 21, 22. But I'd say the majority of like our in-person sales were probably much earlier than that because the industry itself has just changed so much. So she was always doing that part of it, and then her role changed quite a bit even when we had kids. She worked her normal job for the first year to 2 years after we had kids, and then quickly decided that she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And so then she took on an even bigger role with us at that time, where she was really doing a lot more admin work, and she was doing marketing and things like that. And, just through working from home and stuff like that, I think she really lost her passion for working in the chiropractic industry where she had been, and decided that maybe this role wasn't for her anymore. You know, we had a little bit of difference in theories on how the business wanted to be run as well, and we were butting heads a lot on that. And so kind of the compromise on that was that she was going to go back to work full-time once, because the kids were old enough now. They were back into school full-time, and she didn't feel like she was, I don't want to say that she didn't feel like she was needed as much at home, but she saw the kids growing up and thought, hey, I can
an opportunity.
Yeah, I can go back and do what I want to do, and that's always been the big thing that her and I have talked about. The photography business has always been my passion. She's filled those roles and filled them very graciously and with few complaints, and usually her complaints were with me. So
did you earn those complaints?
I 100% earned some of those complaints. I for anybody that ever works with their spouse in a business, it's not easy. It's not easy because there's you try to think, or you have this thought that like I can separate business from personal, and it's not that easy. It all bleeds together, and your animosities in the business bleed over into your personal, and your personal animosities bleed over into your business, and it's not a great role. And if you can do it, all the more power to you. You know, I mean, I think that's great, and we made it work for a very long time, and I'm very, very thankful for her help, and I could not have done it without her help. But you know, we've transitioned out of that now to where she has a very minimal role with the business now, and it's working out good for the most part. You know, it's made me, if anything, like it's made me grow up. You know, and you know, I've always been the bright-eyed artist, you know, that just wants to play all the time. And now I go, oh no, I have to do the marketing. I have to do the books. I have to do the schedule, and I you know, have to do these things that I don't want to do. And so it's made me really grow as a business person.
Well, as for the difficulty part of that, lifelong bachelor. Sorry, ladies, I'm friends with both of you. I didn't mean it. Don't yell at me. Yell at me later. How long did it take before you felt like you were comfortable with your business? Like, were you really, okay, this is working, I feel good, I can run a solid business? How long did that take?
I don't know, because it goes in waves. Because there's days that you feel like you have control of everything, and then there's days like yesterday where everything falls apart and you feel like you don't know anything that you're doing, and you wonder why you don't just go get a 9 to 5 and leave work at work. I mean, I would say 90% of the days that I wake up now, I feel in control and I know what I'm doing, and everything's good. But I would say, like, when I really started to feel that way was probably, let's see, Rory, my son, was born in 2015. I mean, I'd really say 2017, 2018 was when I really started to feel that.
So you're almost 10 years, basically, of business.
Yeah. I mean, and again, I mean, it's not like there weren't days of that in that time period. You know, there were days where, like, you're like, this is the greatest thing ever, I love this, blah, 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 you know, and then there were just days where you're miserable, or, you know, you have, you know, the photography industry, if you're not doing a lot of indoor shooting, you know, like with backgrounds and setups, which we were doing some of that, but it wasn't like our forte. You know, you'll go a month, 2 months with not a lot of income, and you really start to feel depressed, and when am I ever going to have another paycheck, you know, and how am I going to do this? And when you add kids into that mix, oh my God, like, it just adds another level of stress to you, where you're just like, oh my God.
Lifelong bachelor. Lifelong bachelor.
And then you've got, you know, I mean, then, you know, throw Stephanie into wanting to be a stay-at-home mom into there, and having kids, and not working, and you're just like, oh my gosh, you know, and as much as you say, well, I'm going to budget this year so that I'm not freaking out in those winter months, it never works out that way. You just, there's always something to buy, something to spend the money on, or, you know, that the money never goes far enough, you know, and thankfully we've transitioned out of that. You know, now we're busy year round. We have stuff going I mean, in fact, actually, the crazy part now is like July is actually our slow down month now, with the way we've structured our business. But when you're not shooting weddings, and you're not doing any portraits outside, and you're not doing these things, you start freaking out, and you really start questioning yourself. Like, why did I do this? I don't understand, you know, and should I just go get a second job, you know, and so, yeah, I mean, it took a really long time to get on solid ground and not feel like that, you know, and I feel like probably the second or third year that my son had been born. Like that was like when I really started to feel like I had control of it, and there actually was a time where I did go get a different second job, you know, and thought, okay, well maybe I'll go do this and I'll just do the photography thing on the side, you know, and I actually worked for a liquor distributor for about 6 months. Nothing will remind you of why you started a business like going and getting a second job.
Yeah. Agreed.
It is, especially, I had never worked in the corporate world, and I was immersed in the corporate world, was headed into that sales direction, and it scared the shit out of me. I mean, but I don't, sorry if I can't swear on this.
I don't care. We're drinking bourbon and
Yeah.
on
Okay.
camera. I think
All
we're
right.
going to be okay on
I wasn't
profanity.
sure, but I mean, quite frankly, I mean, I was, you know, everybody talks about the Sunday scaries. It was 100% having the Sunday scaries of it's Sunday night, 6, 7 o'clock. I'm getting depressed.
Dreading Monday.
Yeah, because
Uh-huh.
I'm getting depressed because I'm like, I gotta be up at 6 a.m.
Yep.
I gotta be in that store by 7 a.m. to start putting the bottles up on the shelf.
Yep.
You know, and you know, and then you get involved in all the corporate.
Shenanigans.
Yeah, the back and forth between, you know, your boss isn't talking to the other sales reps. The sales reps are telling you what to do. You don't think that the sales reps are your boss, and so you're calling your boss and saying, is this right? I don't know. Everybody's just telling you just to do your job. And I'm like, yeah, but nobody's telling me how to do it. I don't get it. You know, it wasn't what I wanted. You know, it wasn't creative in any sense of the fashion. I was miserable. And so, you know, like I said, I did that for 6 months. And the worst part was it was an amazingly great paying job. It was a union job. I was probably making more money than I had ever made in my life. Union benefit, like we had the best insurance, the best everything. I just was so unhappy, and so I finally just said something to Stephanie, and I said, "Oh, look, I'm miserable," you know, and she could tell. She's just like, I know you are, like you know, and so we jumped straight back into the business full time at one point, and I took the lessons that I learned from the corporate world and brought those into the business, you know, like how to, you know, I mean, that was and it seems like something so easy to realize, but until you're like immersed in all of it, you know, I mean, when I was working for that liquor distributor, I mean, I was busting my butt 8 hours a day, running from store to store, because if I didn't, I mean, I guess that was the thing, is like if I didn't get my job done within that 8 hours, I was working 9 hours, or I was working 10 hours, and I didn't want to be working 10 hours putting up booze on a shelf and then having to go home with my back aching to be a less than stellar dad. And I just said, okay, well, now just work this hard at your business. You know, again, I don't mind working hard. Now work that hard for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's what I did, you know, and so we never officially closed the business or anything, but there was a little 6-month hiatus on how we were operating and everything, and just really powered through that, and I learned a lot of things. And sometimes, I mean, I just had to remind myself of that the other day, about, like, do you remember how hard it was to drive from store to store to store to store and deal with all of that? Like, don't give yourself these excuses of like, well, I deserve a day off, or I deserve to go take a nap, or you know, like, no, get out there and work hard, you know, and so that's what I do now, you know. I have to remind myself on how to do that.
I dig it. I'm going to refill, and I'm going to
Yeah.
try this neat, because this was good.
I'm gonna do the same.
And I don't feel like getting up and getting ice.
It is really good, by the way.
It is.
Yeah.
It's different.
Like I said, I like that it's not quite as sweet as a regular rye.
Yeah.
Like it just
Yeah.
cuts
To
that down.
take that and their bourbon cream
Okay.
Do like a 2-to-1. Do like 2 ounces of that and an ounce of the bourbon cream.
What is the I've never had a bourbon cream.
What have I?
Like an Irish cream, but it's made with bourbon.
Okay.
Oh.
So, oh God, it's so good.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
it's
sounds
so good.
And we're learning. We're putting the bottle on the table so you can see what we're actually drinking. Unlike last week, we're just drinking old fashions, getting hammered on camera. Which, don't get me wrong, that's fun too.
Yeah.
However, now we can, we should get sponsorships.
Yeah.
Why
should.
are they not like giving us a nickel for every person that watches us? That'd give us
Right.
like 35 cents now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Second episode and all.
Yeah. So you were talking about growing through your business and stuff. What changes have you seen in the industry? Obviously, with you were in kind of at the beginning of the digital era.
Yeah. So, as far as, I'll go back as far as college when I really got into photography. What I've seen change from then all the way up until now, so when I first started in photography, digital was still very much in its infancy. We had digital cameras out there. I mean, I even had my school actually had a digital camera in high school. It was the absolute most basic digital camera you could ever see. I don't know if you guys ever remember, Sony used to sell this. It was called a Sony Mavica. It literally took a floppy disk.
Oh, yes.
Like not a SD card, not a
Yes.
thing. We're talking those 2.5 by 3.5 inch
Hard
floppy
discs.
discs.
We had them at the police department when I started.
Yes, it held like
Not to
12
age myself.
photos. You could shoot like if you got one that had extended storage capacity, you might get 24 photos on there. They were grainy as all could be. Just not, they were a toy. They weren't meant to be professional cameras at that time. Transitioned into college. Really kind of got my start into film photography at that time. The first college that I went to, they had a little bit of a photography program that I was actually not even in. My girlfriend, who I was dating at the time, was in that though. So she kind of showed me the ropes on, okay, here's like the basics of this, And again, I just started reading books. Like it was just like, find a photography book, read about it. None of it made any sense. It was all Greek. I was just like, oh, no, okay, sure, yeah, aperture. Like, okay, I get it. And I didn't really have anybody to explain it to me. So I just, again, it was a lot of trial and error. I think I can't remember if we were talking about it on camera or off camera, but we were talking about those happy accidents. The first photo that I was ever proud of was literally a happy accident. It was, I still have the photo. It was a nighttime photo set on a tripod, and it was the college that I was at was traditionally a Catholic school. And they had this really cool statue of the Virgin Mary overlooking this, it was just like overlooking the hill in Davenport, Iowa, and you could see the bridge in the background and everything like that. And I set it on this tripod, and it was a really long exposure. I had no idea what I was doing. I think like, I had some friends with me who knew a little bit more than me, and they were like, yeah, no, just like try like a 2-second exposure on that. And I was like, okay, and did it, took the roll of film to Walgreens, had it processed, and it was like the coolest photo ever. I loved it. I was just, I was absolutely in love. And that was probably the photo that sparked my passion for photography, because I was just like, I want to repeat this all the time, and it's like similar to like golf. You hit that one shot and you just, let's just do this all the time, I should just probably try to put it in the hole every single time, type of thing.
Very Happy Gilmore.
That was kind of how it happened. And so anyway, back to, we shot a lot of film and did a lot of that. Then I transferred schools because my school closed. Yes, closed down. Like the whole school just closed down. It was a weird It was a weird thing.
You did not pick that one well.
Thanks, Dad. I heard that one more than once, especially because it was a private school.
Oof.
So now, in fairness, all the bills were on me, so it's not like they were paying the bill. But I did hear that many, many times. You think you might choose a little wiser the next time, like. Yeah, so when I transitioned to Eastern Illinois because, number one, it was the least expensive public school in Illinois at that time, and they actually had a graphic design program, which was the major that I was at my old school. So I did, I had no intention of going into photography at that time. I was actually going to go into graphic design, was going to work on video games and things like that, and that's why I went to that first school, was because they actually had some professors and a really nice program that led into that. So transitioned to Eastern, quickly decided I did not want to sit in front of a computer for 10, 11, 12 hours a day. That was if you're going to do graphic design, that's all you do all day long, is sit in front of that computer, and I didn't want to do that. So
That's why I dropped out of college the first time.
Hey, some of the most successful people dropped out of college. So
I will let you know if I ever become successful.
I'd say you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, we're all right. Here we are now, so cheers, gentlemen.
But I decided I wanted to get back into the photography thing. Like that was, again, I was like, that was a lot of fun. I loved getting those like amazing shots and things. And so I said, well, how can I do this? They didn't really have a photography program at Eastern per se, but they had an art photography program or like a, not a major, but it was just like an emphasis, and then they had a photojournalism emphasis, and I didn't feel like I was the right person for an art photography at the time. I just didn't feel like I had the background. I didn't have the passion for it, but I liked journalism. It was something that, I had taken a journalism class at my old school and was like, yeah, I could see myself doing this. So I joined the newspaper. And at the time, I was originally going to be a writer and and stuff like that, and I didn't realize that I didn't like writing at that time. So I said, all right, I'll try to be a writer. Literally took a couple of assignments on, because our newspaper, it was pretty loose. It was just, hey, do you want to take this assignment? Sure, okay. You go back, you write something, you give it to them, they print it or they edit it, whatever. Okay, fine. Took my stuff into my advisor after a couple of months of working for the newspaper, and he sat down. He was also the photography advisor, the newspaper advisor at the time, and he took a look at my writing, and he looks at me seriously and goes, "Do you enjoy writing?" And I said, Not really.
Translation: you suck.
Yeah. And he goes, "Is there something that you would prefer to do?" And I said, "That bad, huh?" And he goes, "It's not good." And I go, "Okay, well, and I was honest with him. I was like, I don't think it's my passion. I don't think it's something that I like to do.
Yeah.
But I do like taking photos." And he goes, "Let me go introduce you to somebody." And he introduces me to the photo advisor. And he goes, "This is Colin. Colin's your photo advisor. He's going to give you a photo assignment. He's going to give you a camera. He's going to send you out." So took that out, all film, shot it, whatever, and shot a couple of other things, came back, developed the role, and then Colin helped me go through everything. And I can even remember that first time of him and I going through the roll of film and picking out which photo, And the crazy part is he's like, which photo? He was very, very good. Colin was very patient, and was like, "Oh, which one do you like?" "I don't know. I like this one." He goes, "How come you don't like this one?" And he goes, "Because I really like this one." Obviously, he knew a lot more about photography than I did. So anyway, so that's kind of where the film aspect came in. Fast forward to 3, 4, maybe 5 months later, the whole newspaper gets digital cameras. So it's a whole brave new world at that point. We've got 10 digital cameras. At this point, they are good cameras. They're semi-professional. Digital photography is well on its way at this point. So we start learning all the digital stuff. I take a couple of classes, learn how the digital photography is different from the film, and we keep rolling from there. All through college, we shoot digital, and not a lot of changes in those first 3-4 years because so many newspapers and so many photographers at the time were so hesitant to change. The technology's changing rapidly. The photographers themselves don't want to change. I don't need this digital crap. That was always their line of it. But we as young photojournalists realized, like, this is where it's going. Like, why would you spend, number one, you send a photographer out with 3 rolls of film to go shoot an assignment, and they can come back with 98 photos from that shoot, or 108. I was doing my math wrong. You can come back with 108 photos from that photo shoot, or you can send them out with a digital camera, and now they can come back with 300. And they don't have to be so selective about what they want.
And none of them cost you a nickel besides the time.
Exactly. And no chemical. There's no upkeep on the machine. It's, your photos are instant. Whether or not you got your shot or not. So I think that was probably the biggest change that we saw in the early years, was going from having to come, oh my gosh, I have to rush back for deadline because I have to process my film. I have to look at them on the light table. Then I have to get the loop out. Then we have to scan it. Then, you needed 3 hours before deadline just to get the photo for the front page or, or even the middle of the paper. Then all of a sudden it was, no, I know exactly what my photo is. I'm going to download this card. It'll take me 3 minutes. I'll edit the photo. You'll have it in 10, So it changed the way that you did jobs. You went from not, just hoping, praying that you had a good shot, to, I know I have it, here it is, and just the expediency of it all. So then that pretty much stayed all the way through college. The only thing that really changed from there was like the upgrades in technology. You had more megapixels, better quality, better lenses, all those things. Then graduate, get into the real world industry. Everything for the most part is digital by that point. It had all, I would say by 2006, 2007, it had all really transitioned into digital photography. And then, the biggest changes came through quality and what your editing could do at that point. It was less about the cameras and the upgrades and things like that, more about what you could do editing-wise. Now, me as a photojournalist in the early days, photojournalists aren't really allowed, by ethics standards to really do a lot of editing. We could do basic like color correction, light correction, cropping, and we could do some dodging and burning, because we did that with film photography. You dodge and burn a photo to make it look better in the newspaper or something like that, but you couldn't Photoshop something out or whatever.
Sure.
And
no
then,
magic eraser.
Right? Yeah, no magic eraser.
Buzzkill.
Anything like that. But very quickly, that stuff came into play. And we weren't doing a lot of that at the newspapers. But when I decided to start my own business, you quickly learn, like, oh no, you need to do these things. You need to figure out how to Photoshop something out and how to do that. So it became more about the software technology, not the camera technology. And there's been a lot of changes over the years, just with the attitude of this digital stuff versus that digital stuff, or what you can do here or there. So there's been a shift in attitude over the years with some of that. I mean, I'm trying to think of like specific examples of things, but like nothing's really like coming to mind. It's more for like the camera or the photography purists, things like that. You know, I mean, there's a lot of guys that are like, no, you don't change anything in there.
Yeah.
And then there's me who's like, no, this wedding paid me a lot of money to be there and get the best photo I can. I'm gonna Photoshop out that exit sign, you know, type of thing.
So how has the cell phone era affected your business? Because, you know, obviously you have like some cell phones take better pictures than
Sure.
digital cameras do.
Yeah.
And you're right there.
Yeah.
You know, so.
I mean, my number one rule is when somebody asks me what camera is the best camera, you know, the thing that they hate for me to say is the one that's in your hand.
Yeah.
And the cell phone is nothing different, you know. I mean, it's all about the artist, not about the technology. Now, camera technology in your phones has developed drastically in even the last 5 years. I mean, what we see on our cameras is sometimes much better than what comes straight out of mine. Now, the final product of what I deliver will be a lot better, you know. I mean, I guess I would liken it to like a baker, you know.
Sure.
You know, you're getting you get your raw materials from the same place. What you do with them is completely,
The magic.
Yeah, that's the magic sauce right there. But you know, the like with the cameras and things, I think it's changed the attitude or the expectations of what a client expects and thinks they deserve, and that's good and bad. You know, I mean, because sometimes a client may have outrageous expectations of what they think that you can do. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not an Instagram filter.
Right.
Like, that's I'm just not. Like, that's not what I do. But no, I mean, it has, phones have drastically changed what the expectations are for delivering a photo. You know, I mean, people do want that skin smoothed out and things like that. And, you know, I used to, when I first started in the photography industry, or when I first started the business, you know, we started the business as, I was primarily a wedding photographer, and I was a wedding photojournalist. I was even actually part of this organization called the WPPJ, which is the Wedding Photojournalists, or I'm sorry, WPJA, Wedding Photojournalists Association, where it was like, yeah, you don't really edit a lot of the photo. You know, you maybe go black and white, cropping, you know, just the same as the newspapers. And that was the organization was actually based off of newspaper photographers who were doing weddings on the side, you know, and we all kind of prided ourselves on that. And we transitioned away from that because that's not what the everyday client wants. You know, they want that filtered look. They want to look their best. They spend a lot of money for me to be there. They spend a lot of money on their makeup. They spend a lot of money on their venue. Now make it look its best, you know? And so there's just a lot more editing on our end than there ever used to be. That's not to say that there's a lot more time involved. You know, thankfully, these editing tools have provided ways of batching a lot of this and automating a lot of the process, but it's still time consuming, and you have to have a much more watchful eye on the final product when you deliver it, you know, and so I'd say that's probably the biggest change is I'm still from 15 years ago, I'm still spending the same amount of time on a wedding. It's just spending my time in a different way. Sure. You know, and I like it for the most part. Yeah. You know, I mean, I like. I'm really, really happy with the product that we're turning out now. I mean, it's almost painful to go back and look at some of those old ones, and it makes you want to like actually re-edit them. Like you like I've seen weddings from 14, 15 years ago that I'm like, I should just send them like 5 new photos, you know, and then you realize like know if that couple's still together. So I don't.
Dana and I have been married 28 years, and our photographer for our wedding was he was spicy. He was a boudoir, whatever you call it.
Boudoir.
Yeah, them.
Yeah.
And he did some other things. And now, of course, we have a book that has like 1,000 2x3 pictures in it, or 3x5s.
From his boudoir
whatever.
shoots or from the wedding?
No. Those are in a separate album.
Okay.
Just kidding, Dana.
I'm gonna say
But now looking back at those photos, you can totally see it. Like you can totally we get typecast in our business. We do a certain style of thing, and it's kind of our style.
Yep.
You do a certain style of thing, it's your style. This guy did a certain style of thing, and it's definitely his style. But
so all of your wedding pictures were sexy wedding pictures.
they're spicy.
Yeah,
All right.
some of I guarantee some of the. I guarantee he pulls some of that posing from his boudoir
Absolutely.
stuff
Yes.
into your wedding stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
You can't avoid that
No.
as an artist, as a photographer. It's just like you said, like your style's your style.
Yep.
And as much as you think you're going to emulate or you're going to change a style or change something, you do to a degree, but what makes it yours always bleeds in.
Mm-hmm.
You can't.
Sure.
You have a
can't-
core.
Yes.
You can't avoid having a core.
But I don't think you want it any other way, because
Right. No.
people pick you because of your style. People don't pick you because of your style, like you said earlier, but that's what defines you as a business. It's
That actually, that kind of brings up a little bit of point. You were talking about style and things like that, but also expectations. It all kind of molds together. One of the changes that we saw in the mid 2010s, stuff like that, was the advent of Pinterest and things like that. And it's good and it's bad. Pinterest gives you a lot of inspiration of oh, okay, I can do that, or I can do this. Oh, that's how he did that, and you analyze a lot of those photos. The problem kind of becomes when a client comes to you and goes, I want these 10 photos. And you go, but that's not mine.
right.
That's not, and I get it, every bride or not even a bride, every senior portrait, they want what they see on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I want, but what they don't realize is you can attempt to do something like that, but it's never going to be as good as that, because that's that person. That's that person's style, And so we used to, when probably from 2012 to 2016, 2017, we used to tell brides well, send us your Pinterest board and blah, blah, blah. And then we quickly were just nope, don't do that. Don't, I'll still take it on, if people want to show me a couple of ideas, okay, I can do something with that. But, again, just those expectations of what the internet brought out was well, I want this to look the thing you always, as an artist or as a photographer or as a business owner, you want to tell them is if you want that, go to that person, because that's what they do, or, the jerkish type of thing that you want to tell them is okay, then pay me the $600 that he got to do that.
Well, but they're seeing one screenshot of hundreds of pictures. You got the girl that's standing in the water knee deep with the white dress that's flowing halfway down the river. How long did it take them to get that perfect shot?
Yeah.
Probably 300 shots and an hour's worth of time, and it's
and lighting equipment,
right,
and assistance,
right,
and that's the thing is you try to explain to them you're it's not that simple,
right?
It's not just stand in the water and let me take a photo of you. It takes a team and a crew to be able to get this the way that you want it.
There's commercial scale that they don't understand.
Yes.
Your budget doesn't buy that.
Right. Yeah.
Not even close to what you're requesting.
And you're not doing it in Lake Sewell or, you know.
Yeah, I run into the same problem with students because they expect to take one class and be, you know.
Sharpshooter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm your Huckleberry. No, we need you to
Right.
present the firearm and not shoot yourself.
Yes.
That is step one, and that is a half day of training. Wait, I'm not Doc Holliday? No, you're not Doc Holliday.
Yeah.
You're not.
Yeah.
Same animal. It's like, we can get you to Doc Holliday, but that's going to cost you 25 times what you had to, and
Yeah.
a bunch of prep work and a bunch of other people involved that you don't want to invest in because you don't give. Yeah, and it's something that a lot of people from the customer side is they don't understand what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's exactly like we're saying with the Instagram. I pull this one photo off the internet. This is fantastic. And this is perfect. They just assume it's, oh, we're going to step out, snap the picture, and go. And you need the team. You need the lighting. You need the time of day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That actually took 4 days to get that picture
Yep.
because it was a sunset photo.
Yep.
Which means, guess what? You have 15 minutes exactly in the evening to get that picture properly.
Yes.
So you're going to be there 4, 5, 6, 7 a week before it works out. Oh, the tide came in.